other than in the north. On the Atlantic flight, I had ice conditions and general storm. On this flight, really no bad weather at all, except a few little rains saw the moon and stars most of the night. Of course, in both flights, I was very glad to see land.
Amelia Earhart, the first woman to get the Distinguished Flying Cross, best known for her accomplishments as a pilot, specifically her 1932 solo flight across the Atlantic. In 1922, she set the woman's altitude record of 14,000 feet. Then a year later, she was the fourth woman to receive her pilot's license. Later in 1928, she was the first woman to fly solo across the United States, as well as the first woman to fly across the Atlantic as a passenger. Her flight as a passenger on the three-member Friendship crew sparked her fame. In 1930, she set the woman's speed record of 181 miles per hour, and in 1932, she received the National Geographic Society's Special Gold Medal. She was the first person to fly across the Pacific. In 1937, Amelia Earhart began her record flight around the world along the equator, covering 22,000 miles, two-thirds of the way, before mysteriously disappearing with her navigator. Amelia was born in a little town called Atchison, Kansas on July 24, 1897. When she was a young child, she would spend the winter months with her grandmother, who wanted Amelia to act like a lady and not jump the fence or play basketball, because those were boy things. Amelia, on the other hand, was a rebel growing up and did anything and everything that interested her, ignoring if it was ladylike or not. She jumped that fence, learned how to play basketball from the school coach, chose the metal sled over the slower wooden sled that was for girls, shot rats with a rifle in her grandmother's barn, and many other things. Amelia thought that women should be able to do anything men can do. And beginning from her rebellious childhood, she showed America and the world that this was possible. Amelia Earhart was such an influence to women in America that in 1935, Eleanor Roosevelt called her one of the 5 friends she considered a source of inspiration. Amelia Earhart took a more personal stance towards women's advancement. She believed that women could achieve whatever they set out to do, and that it should be the ability of the individual, not the sex, that counts. And she promoted this feminism in her interviews. Although Amelia was a pacifist and very much against war, she believed that women should be drafted, because she saw no logic in disqualifying women from such privileges. Amelia rejected the traditional role of women in her time when she showed that she was reluctant to marry and settle down. Amelia's life was full of adventure, and though she eventually did marry, she never truly settled down. When she wasn't flying, she was making public appearances, or designing her own women's clothing line, or active wear to be shown in Vogue magazine. Earhart was elected to the first president of the 99s, a group of female pilots whose goal was to assist women in aeronautical research, air racing events, acquisition of aerial experience, and administration of aid through aerial means in times of emergency. And though this organization, she not only became an official in the National Aeronautical Association, but she became a spokesperson for women in aviation. Recently, a plane fragment has been found on an island called Nickamaruru. This fragment is thought to be a piece that was put on Amelia's plane during repairs in Miami. Along with this piece of evidence, there was also a few bottles that seemed to match the size and shape of things that Earhart would have brought with her, like her freckle ointment. 3 months after Earhart went missing, there was a report of unexplained objects protruding out of the water on Nickamaruru shoreline. And there was also a satellite image that recently surfaced, which may have found her missing plane at the base of an underwater cliff just off the island's coral reef. Could this be how Amelia Earhart died? As a castaway on a small uninhabited island between Australia and Hawaii, so close to finishing her trip? Or...
So what do you think really happened to Amelia Earhart?
Well, I heard that her navigator, Noonan, that they were both spies for the government, taking pictures of the Japanese, but the government covered it all up because they shot her down. Yeah, the Japanese, they figured out her plan, shot her down, and they got her as prisoner of war, and they've been keeping her alive all these years with new technologies. The government, they're trying to cover everything up, but they can't. They can't fool me.
Well, that is not the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Everyone knows that her navigator was drunk, and they crashed, and they made it to an island where she later died.
Well, if she made it to an island where she died, where's her body?
Have you ever heard of coconut crabs? No? Well, they're about the size of a trash can and they ate her. So, yeah. And don't get me wrong, Noonan was a good guy. In fact, I heard he and Amelia had a thing. Yeah, he made their plane go down so he and Amelia could escape the fame and they could finally be together. Isn't that romantic?
Aliens.
Her navigator, Noonan. Zach, I sort of I can see
That is
you.
the most
Stop.
ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Everyone knows that her and her navigator, their plane go down so
Damn.
Amelia could escape their fame and they could finally be with him and her husband. That sentence doesn't make any sense.
And not with her husband. Let's just stop.
Okay.
Should we? Oops, I stopped it.
Okay. We'll just do this.
Wait, it's still going. I'm so confused.
Okay, so it's still going?
I don't know. I don't like this
Let
game.
me see. It's, yes, it's still going.
Click the stop button.
It's still going. Okay, we'll just cut all that in the middle. Do you know how to do that?
No.
Okay, we'll figure it out.